Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs. I'm going to bring this just a little closer to me so that you can hear me and I don't disappear with my voice. And welcome to Season 5 and episode number, let's take a little look here, 804 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Oh, Canada. Always 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Thursday, December 4th, 2025. And it's a gray day yet again here at the Beaver Lodge from what I can tell looking out the window, even though it's not completely light out yet here, although it is getting a little lighter. But we are going to have an early winter day. It's supposed to get down. It's supposed to get down a lot, actually, as the day goes on to minus 13 as we get to late tonight, feeling like minus 20 or so. But it's going to be a cooler, a bit of a warmer day than that. Feels like minus 13 or 14, but like I said, just progressively getting colder and colder as the day goes on today here at the Beaver Lodge. So this will be the coldest day of the year at the Beaver Lodge, hands down. Warms up a little bit after that, but yeah. So bundle up if it's getting a little cold where you are, and make sure that you stay nice and warm and snug. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And not with me as usual is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly, although Mr. Grizzly has produced another growl for us yesterday, the third part in the medical malpractice series that he has been dealing with here. And very intriguing bit of news that he is bringing us here, because when we're listening to these stories, we can all imagine ourselves in similar situations and how we definitely would not like what's going on. So it's particularly jarring and definitely well worth your time if you haven't listened to them yet. So I highly recommend it. Let's see. What else do we have for you today? Our podcast founding sponsors, we have to thank them. The Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Dan Fam, how is your mental health today? I am doing pretty well, I have to say. No major complaints. Still tired, but recovering, feeling better with each every day. Today, this evening, waiting for the event drop to hit, or the little dip when I'm not going to be packing my bags and my effects to go to the theater to perform another week of shows. But so far hasn't hit yet. Still feeling good. Of course, there's lots of communication online with members of my former cast members, so it still feels like we're still a close unit. But and that regular life hasn't really taken over yet. But it's coming. It's coming. Let's see. What else? However, a little later than I wanted to be, not as late as yesterday, but a little later than I wanted to be. Once again, I did need the alarm to wake me up this morning. That's 2 mornings in a row, which is usually pretty rare. I usually wake up on my own about an hour, sometimes on some days that's very bad, 4 hours before my alarm is supposed to ring. Frequently three, but usually 1 to 1.5 on my own. But the last 2 days, and last night I went to bed earlier than even the night before, and still needed the alarm this morning. So it's good that I'm getting good sleep and that I'm sleeping all the way through. Oh, through my nights, which is not typical for me. In one way, like I said, feeling more rested, but feeling a little more rushed in the mornings. Um, when the alarm one of the I have to wait until the alarm rings because it doesn't give me as long as a window as I would really like. And given that I was still sleeping, it wasn't like I wake up and just pop out of bed like I normally do. If I wake up on my own before the alarm, I'm just up and then I pop out of bed and I just start my day. If I need the alarm to wake me up, I'm a little groggy when I get started, and it takes a couple of minutes for the engine to warm up, as they say. But I'm here and you're here, and we're going to have an interesting show today. Also, a thought for the kids and cubs out there who are sharing our content and giving us a lot of love in the process. There was a wonderful comment yesterday from on our Blue Sky account, I believe it is, from a follower of ours. And I would like to tell you who it is. But so far, at the moment, the Blue Sky page on my computer is frozen and giving me the spinning blue wheel of eternal purgatory. So I'm going to go through here with my trusty phone. Kit FF Susie uh, quoted our show from yesterday and stated some interesting moments missed in some other coverage I watched previously. I'm not sure many understand MOU is not an agreement, like my customers often don't understand the difference between a quote and an estimate, to be honest. So I just found that comment delightful to read because on this show, we do make an effort to try to go deeper than just the surface with our coverage in our analysis, and that there are people listening to us and um, how would you say finding details in our coverage and our analysis that they are not picking up through other sources makes us very happy because it gives us the impression that we are creating additional value, and that is never a bad thing. So thank you for sending us such a lovely compliment. We are very, very, very chuffed to receive it. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. Little moments of love that we get from our damn fam that provoke warm fuzzies, and we are so grateful to have you with us as members of the damn fam and giving us those little rays of sunshine every single day. So thank you. Big kisses to all of you. All right, kits and cubs, let's take a look this morning because we haven't done this in a while. Let's see who is with us here in the Damn Fam chat today. Looking into the magic monitor, and I see Kit Elaine and Kit Tavi G. I see Kit Argosi Acres. I see who else in here? Kit Wishful Sun with us this morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. I see Kit Linda M with us, the original and the best. Miss Shadika also, and good morning to all of the family there. I see Kit Grace is with us, saying, not really emotionally or mentally here today, but doing my best. I completely understand how that feels, Kit Grace, and wherever you happen to be in your mental and physical and emotional presence today is where we are going to meet you. So don't worry about that. We'll find you. And we're glad you're here no matter what state you're in. And hopefully, after the end of the show, well, maybe emotionally, mentally, you'll feel a little better because, that's what the damn family's here for. So I'm taking you in my arms and giving you a big hug and hoping that from now on, the day gets progressively better. We have Kit Nona Carol with us here saying good morning. We also have, who else in this? Kit Hyper T1234 saying Bom dia Castorzinos, eu estou dirigindo para Brookville por meu trabalho. And that I did understand. That is good morning, little beavers. I am on my way to Brockville for work, for my job. Aha! Today I was able to understand the Portuguese. We have Kit Uncover with us saying good morning to everyone as well. Who else is in here in the chat today? We have Kit Nona as well. So we have Nona Caral and Nona with us saying good morning, friends, and happy Thursday. I like that we have so many Nonas in the damn fam. Makes me feel good. All I need is for someone to reach through the monitor and pinch my cheeks real hard. We have the Breens with us. We have Kit Sharon with us. Good morning to all of you as well. Thank you for joining us. And this is now like 5 or 6 days in a row that YouTube has the weird handle. So I'm starting to be able to recognize you from your how would I put it, altered uh, handles. We have here Kit Modern Thinky Cap. Or Modern Tiki Cap. That's a name I don't recognize, so I don't know if that's an altered name or just somebody who's new to the damn fam. If you are new, welcome. Pull up a log, stay a while. I hope you like it here. The water's nice. We also have Kit Andy McDandy with us. Hello, good sir. Thank you for joining us. I'm saying good sir. I guess I'm assuming because Andy can be a woman's name as well. I'm sorry if I just misgendered you by accident. We have Kit Bifalbi09 saying, good morning, Dan Fam. That's a name I also don't recognize, so don't know if that's a regular Dan Fam member with a handle that has been altered or someone new. But again, if you are new as well, welcome to the Beaver Lodge. Hope you like it here. We have Kit Mayhem with us. We have Kit Cat with us. And there you go. Uh, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. It wasn't Kiss Miss Shatika that I had. It was Kit Bucky. The altered name looks a little bit like Miss Shatika's, so I had that wrong. Ah, I see. Bifalbi is Kit Ibad. Hello, nice to see you this morning. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for pointing that out, because I would have recognized that. It's so nice to have you with us, Kit Ibad. Okay, let's get into it. Kid Hyper T says, just got to try not sounding Hispanic while speaking Portuguese. Yeah, I probably speak Portuguese with either a bit of a Spanish or slightly Romanian accent. Oh, we also have Kit Laurie with us here. Okay. And Modern Tinky is normally Kit Good Dragon. So there we go. And Kit Tom is with us as well, sliding in under the plate for hello, as well as Kit Saucy. All right. Now that we've said hello to everyone, let's get into it because we have a really interesting show for you today. Dealing primarily with provincial politics, although we will touch on a couple of other things if time permits. But there is turmoil in provincial politics. Pratt Falls, uh, drama. Oh God, darlings, so much drama. Mm. And as you know, your Queen Beaver lives for the awkward moment. And there are so many awkward moments today to talk about, kids and cubs. So let's get into it. Just think of this as a big political sheet cake. And we're just going to slam our faces down and motorboat it. Just slam your face down in there and eat all the cake because there's a lot going on. So let's start in La Belle Province, La Province de Québec, where we have mentioned a while ago that there have been some issues there with the Quebec Liberal Party in particular. Last we checked, um, what had happened is that um, the leader of the Quebec Liberal Party, Pablo Rodriguez, who was relatively recently selected as leader of the party, found out does not have a seat in the Assemblée nationale in Quebec at the moment. And therefore, as was the case when Pierre was still leader of the federal conservatives but didn't have a seat, had to name a house leader or leader of the government in the legislature or however the titles are in various provincial parliaments. But he had to name the equivalent of a house leader. So he named Marois Risky as his house leader. Now, Marois Risky is very, very popular in the province of Quebec. Very well liked, um, has a great reputation, um, and therefore it seemed like a good choice. Not too long ago, Marois Risky booted her chief of staff, fired her own chief of staff, Geneviève Hens. Now, Geneviève Hens is a close ally of Pablo Rodriguez, and it would seem, word on the tweet, is that maybe um, he had a hand in having her named as Marois Risky's chief of staff. I'm not completely clear on that, but it seems that that may be the case here. Um, and it seems that she fired her chief of staff, a close ally of the leader of the party, without having informed the leader of the party. This prompted Geneviève Hens, the chief of staff, to file a legal claim for her dismissal, which creates a situation where Marois Risky is limited in what public comments she can make. Of course, that doesn't necessarily stop her from picking up the phone and confidentially assuring confidence, maybe have a conversation with the leader of her party about the whole thing. But she hasn't done that. She's just basically saying, I can't talk. So we have a leader of the Quebec Liberals who apparently has had no idea that the firing was coming, has no idea why the firing happened, and seems to not be in control of his party. He has tried to show that he does have control of this party by calling for an inquiry into what has gone on. There was simultaneously to this, there were also some claims uh, of a scheme to buy votes in the Quebec Liberal leadership race for $100 a vote, called brownies or billets bruns, brown bills in French. So there was talk about handing out brownies, I guess. Nobody knows whether or not Geneviève Hens is um, in some way um, attached to these allegations or not. Um, but her firing at the same time as this news comes out and no details about her firing kind of create a window or an opportunity in public opinion to suggest that maybe she had done something wrong, hence probably the lawsuit, especially if she didn't do anything wrong. So that is going on as an undercurrent. So um, the leader of the party ordered an inquiry into that. The leader of the party then also um, took some action, initial action against Marois Risky, um, but had retained her in caucus. Well, it seems that the next step has been taken and that Marois Risky has been kicked out of the Liberal caucus itself. Um, and Pablo Rodriguez is also talking about reinstating Geneviève Hens, um, the chief of staff, into her position. So, uh, so here, according to an article I see here, Marois Risky, provincially, they're not calling it House Leader, but Parliamentary Leader was her position. Uh, but yes, she has been kicked out of the Quebec Liberal Caucus now, formally, which is a pretty big deal, right? I mean, this is the person that Pablo Rodriguez had trusted to be his voice, his eyes and ears while he was not in the legislature. According to CBC News, the Quebec Liberal Party leader Pablo Rodriguez has expelled Marois Risky from caucus. The decision comes exactly 2 weeks after Risky, the MNA for the Montreal riding of Saint Laurent, was suspended for what the party describes as a breach of trust. Quote, by choosing to act alone and place herself above the team, Marois Risky broke the bond of trust necessary to move forward together, Rodriguez said in a statement on Tuesday. And I'm just going to put a photo up here, Kits and Cubs, for those who are Risky. This is she here. She's been the member of the National Assembly for the riding of Saint Laurent, the provincial riding of Saint Laurent in the province of Quebec, since 2018. So the article continues on. Quote, she made her choice, I made mine. The distractions are over. Now we are focusing on what really matters, the priorities of Quebecers. So this, of course, is another new move from Pablo Rodriguez to show, to exert that he does have control over his caucus and is running the party rather than the guy that's not in the House who seems not to be aware of what's going on and why. Risky was suspended from caucus and removed from her role as parliamentary leader after she unilaterally fired her chief of staff, Geneviève Hintz. Hintz served as his chief of staff when he was the Quebec lieutenant under Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's federal government. She followed Rodriguez into Quebec politics after he left Ottawa. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit of the story here. Obviously, she is not only very close to Pablo Rodriguez, but obviously has a previous working relationship as well. Shortly after releasing his statement, Rodriguez announced at a news conference that he would reinstate Hintz to her position. Rodriguez said he had seen no reason why Hintz should have been fired, and Risky has so far not provided him with an explanation. Quote, there's an obligation to report to the leader, Rodriguez said. I left her a lot of time. If she doesn't report to her leader, that's a lack of loyalty to the leader, the party, and its volunteers. In a statement published later on Tuesday, uh, on social media, Risky said she acknowledges Rodriguez's decision to remove her from caucus. Quote, since day one of my election as MNA for Saint Laurent, I have represented my fellow citizens with dedication and rigor, she said. I would like to reiterate and assure them that I will continue to represent them with the same high standards as an independent MNA. Now, this decision from Rodriguez to announce that he wants to reinstate Hintz to her position, or that he will do that, is striking certain people in the pundit circle as being a little premature, given that he doesn't really know why it is she was fired. He's saying that it seems to be no reason, but there could be a reason, right? And we're just not aware of it. Uh, so for Rodriguez to turn around without any further investigation on his own, without him finding out anything more, um, to bring Hayes back into the fold, is a move that shows leadership and decisiveness, but it's something that could backfire on him eventually if there is indeed something that Hayes, for which she is responsible, that may not have been kosher. So again, a bold and a decisive move, uh, um, probably based in large part of his relationship with Hayes, his professional relationship, and how he has seen her. And he probably clearly, if he trusts her as he does, assumes that there is no way she could be involved with anything as is being described with that sort of brownie scandal. Uh, and therefore, he feels very confident in bringing her back in. I hope for him that that is indeed the case, or else there'll be another political PR disaster for him. And this is not to cast any aspersions on Mademoiselle Hintz at all. There is no evidence whatsoever anywhere in the public domain that she has done anything wrong. There is just a unilateral firing uh, at a time that is uh, that happened at a time relatively near to news of another scandal or not of another scandal, but of a scandal breaking out. These two things could be totally unrelated. And it's just unfortunate timing. That's the bad part for Mademoiselle Heinz in this by Madame Risky, having fired her unilaterally and not making any public statement as to why, just mentioning, um, well, no real statement as to why, and then legal proceedings being started right away, and then Risky just saying, turn around going, well, I can't say anything. It creates this aura of presumed guilt for Mademoiselle Heinz, which could very likely be not justified in any way, shape, or form. So that's the problem, is that we know absolutely nothing one way or another. In dueling lawyers' letters last month, Ace accused Risky of firing her without grounds. In a response letter obtained by Radio Canada, Risky's lawyer said Hayes is well aware of the reasons that led to the termination of her employment. So that didn't help anything either, right? You fired me without grounds. You know very well why it is we fired you. Doesn't give the public anything at all to go on whatsoever. The letter also states Ace's dismissal was due to significant ethical breaches which were compounded by repeated acts of insubordination. Hayes has since filed a lawsuit in Quebec Superior Court seeking $500,000 in punitive and moral damages from Risky. Shortly after Risky's firing of Hayes and subsequent suspension, the Journal de Montréal published text messages between what it said were, quote, two individuals who were actively working to elect Mr. Rodriguez as leader. The alleged text messages referred to the sale of membership cards and money spent to get people to vote for Rodriguez. Rodriguez has since said his party will investigate the allegations of vote buying. So, yeah. And again, that I know of, there is nothing in the public domain that I know of yet that authenticates that these text messages are authentic. Making these claims, which a lot of people have told us to be wary about until we get such confirmation, because such a conversation, text message conversation, could be generated by two people who were mischievous and ordered burner phones and staged the conversation, or could even one could even ask an AI software like ChatGTP, ChatGPT, sorry, to generate that type of a conversation. And therefore, you could then take that generated conversation and claim it as proof that it actually happened, at least for the first few days, to get the story running and get tongues wagging. So, yeah, in the Quebec Liberal Party, Marois Risky has been booted from caucus. She is gone, no longer a member of the caucus. Again, very popular member. There will be some fallout as a result of this. According to, let's see, who is this? André Pratt. Um, I guess this appeared in the National Post. So we can take some of this with a grain of salt, but we will read this here. It says this is how Pablo Rodriguez lost control of the Quebec Liberals. Not sure we can say that yet, but there's definitely some issues here, leadership issues that are raised as a result of this. This November began with good news for Pablo Rodriguez's Quebec Liberal Party. A Léger poll showed the party slowly closing the gap with separatist Parti Québécois, trailing by only 5 points after months of double-digit deficits. Then 2 weeks ago, everything unraveled. Rodriguez is now engulfed in a crisis that could seriously damage the QLP's chance of winning the October 2026 provincial election. It all started with what looked like a minor personnel issue. The party's parliamentary leader, Marois Risky, fired her chief of staff for a, quote, grave error and insubordination. The problem is that the chief of staff in question is very close to Rodriguez and has been appointed by him to manage the relationship between Risky and the leader, who does not yet hold a seat in Quebec's National Assembly. Risky dismissed Heinz without consulting or even notifying Rodriguez. Rodriguez suddenly found himself in an impossible position. Either he let Risky's own act of insubordination pass, in which case he would look weak, or he fired Risky as a parliamentary leader, risking public backlash in favor of Risky, who is by far the Liberals' most popular MNA. Rodriguez chose the latter course, and indeed the public has sided with Risky. The next morning, Le Journal de Montréal published screenshots of a text message exchange between an unnamed parliamentarian and a party activist pertaining to Rodriguez's leadership campaign. The exchange suggested a vote-buying scheme in which supporters for Rodriguez could earn one brownie, $100 for their votes. For the Liberals, this revived memories of past financing scandals they have worked hard to put behind them. If you are a Quebecer, you are very familiar with the Charbonneau Commission and the strawman donations and all of that. The Charbonneau Commission in Quebec, for those who are not familiar with it, was must-see TV. The commission proceedings were shown on TV live, and a lot of people tuned into those. And on an aside, Alberta could certainly use a Charbonneau Commission of its own these days. You won't get one under Daniel Smith, but I'm sure it would be very compelling television. This is not, it's far enough in history and still close enough that you just mentioned Charbonneau Commission, and immediately things are evoked in the public consciousness. Hearings started in 2012, and the interim report was issued in 2014. Right, we're talking about just about 10 years ago. So far enough away, but not far enough away that people that were very interested in it, and like I said, it was very compelling TV and a compelling story for quite a while, won't immediately have images, fresh images, or images that feel fresh, pop to mind when you mention it. In response to the twin controversies, Rodriguez did what he had to do. The party mandated a retired Chief Justice to investigate the text message issue. As for Risky's situation, the leader at first struck a conciliatory tone, inviting her to meet in hopes of resolving the dispute. Risky has stayed publicly silent since the affair broke out, though rumor suggests that she is speaking to reporters off the record, which makes prominent Liberals very nervous. She has refused to disclose what Ace's grave error entailed, and it remains unclear whether the firing and the text messages controversies are connected. And here's the thing now. If she is speaking to reporters off the record, and on top of that, she is now no longer a member of the caucus, but an independent, she might be more willing to say more off the record as not a member of the Liberal Party of Quebec anymore. So stay tuned. There could be yet more pearl clutching and drama, darlings. Rodriguez has given numerous interviews, including an appearance on the primetime show Tout le monde en parle, yet he has failed to convince Quebecers and even Liberals that he is in control. That may change now, as the leader announced on Tuesday that he was throwing Risky out of the Liberal caucus. Enough is enough, he said. To make matters worse, Le Journal de Montréal, always eager for a story that might damage the Liberals, made much of the fact that 38 persons linked to the federal Liberal Party contributed to Rodriguez's leadership campaign. Pablo Rodriguez can thank the Liberal Party of Canada, headlined Le Journal, framing this as proof that under Rodriguez, the QLP has become a provincial branch of its federal namesake, a perception that the party has spent decades trying to dispel. In fact, the 38 persons in question contributed a mere 6% of the funds collected by the Rodriguez campaign, but no matter in politics, perceptions are what count most. 4 investigations are now underway, in addition to the retired judge hired by the Quebec Liberal Party, the National Assembly's Ethics Commissioner, Elections Quebec, and we have now learned Quebec's Anti-Corruption Police Unit. The Anti-Corruption Police Unit, that too will bring in, revive memories of the Charbonneau Commission, with the UPAC, as they call it in French, being involved in that. The UPAC, if I remember, was what did that stand for? Just take Unité Permanente Anticorruption. So yes, the Permanent Anti-Corruption Unit is taking a look into this as well. That is not good for the Quebec Liberal Party at all. Meanwhile, investigative reporters are digging deeper, uncovering new details almost daily. The Liberals, who should be spending their time attacking the government and the Parti Québécois and preparing for next year's election, instead have been on the defensive for the last 15 days. And that also creates an issue for Rodriguez, who really was in a no-win situation. If Risky was the most popular MNA, from his party, then him not firing her, booting her from caucus right away, probably was, at first blush, a smart idea. Of course, this was probably based on the assumption that as a good party member, she would have accepted Rodriguez's invitation for a one-on-one conversation confidential to let the leader of the party in on what was going on so that he could better do his job. But she decided not to do that. And if she's decided not to do that while talking to reporters um, off the record, um, so basically, if she's disclosing more to reporters than she's disclosing to her former leader, then that's not good either, and that would justify her being fired. So, uh, you know, he tried and left space for something for an opportunity to wash the dirty laundry in private rather than out in public. But she clearly did not take him up on that, and therefore he sacked her. Um, uh, Perhaps in hindsight, 15 days was too long to wait to give her an opportunity to come and talk. And that let the situation politically fester. But clearly, he gave it a very good faith opportunity, and his good faith was not met. It is important to remember that the October 2026 Quebec election is of vital importance not only for the province but for Canada as a whole. If the PQ forms the next government, it is committed to holding a third referendum on separation. Although current polls suggest that more than 60% of Quebecers would vote against independence, our experience in 1995 and the Brexit referendum showed that once a referendum campaign begins, anything can happen. That's why it's crucial that Rodriguez and the Quebec Liberal Party get their house in order quickly. If they don't, the party will have no chance of winning the election, and the Parti Québécois will have the political ice to itself, positioned to win a large majority. Should that happen, the consequences for the country could be grave. I have to commend André Pratt and the National Post on this one. Actually, a very good article without that much anti-liberal editorializing in there. So good additional information there that gives us some context and texture from this article from André Pratt. Um, so yeah, Kits and Cubs, a bit of a difficult situation here, and the other part here is that there is some polling that has been taking place also by Leger, more recent polling than the one mentioned in those articles. And it seems that as a result of this, because this is polling that's been done since this is all blown up 15 days ago or so, according to Leger, 39% of self declared liberal voters in the province of Quebec say that they do not have confidence in Rodriguez's leadership at the moment. The Parti Québécois got a boost to 39% in vote intentions, which is their highest tally in a Leger poll in about 25 years or so. The Liberals plummet from 27% to 21% in popular support, and 21% is where the Liberals were sitting prior to Rodriguez becoming the leader. So basically, all the gains that he has made for popular support for the party since he became leader have basically been wiped out in 15 days. Among Francophones in the province, the PQ has a 29% lead over the nearest party. And when you consider that in the province of Quebec, greater than 80% of the electoral ridings have a majority Francophone population, that also is terrible news for the Liberals. Finally, there's a little bit of a benefit for the CAQ that is currently forming government, which has been in the basement for the longest time. There had been some polls at some point early in the year showing that if an election were held at that time, that the CAQ would emerge from that election, going from a net majority to having 0 seats. That has since picked up a little bit for the CAQ at the moment with public opinion polling currently, or the most latest, the most current public opinion polling um, from a 380 showing the province of Quebec is at November 13th, showing the CAQ at 60% and still with 0 seats at the moment. But there's been a bump for the party in terms of public approval from 22% to 26% as a result of these things happening. This is also might have something to do with the CAQ's conflict with doctors. Um, gaining a little more distance in the rear mirror. The maybe people are thinking a little bit better of the party here, because it definitely took a dip with that whole incident that was uh, very, very, very poorly managed, um, and probably not necessary either. The moves that the CAQ took here. So yeah, you got this going on, and also with the CAQ, uh, slightly unrelated, but trying to make its way back in, try to find its way back uh, to the favor of the Quebec electorate. There were some recent comments by newly minted Minister of Canadian Identity, Mark Miller, uh, in which um, he basically stated out loud that he was kind of getting tired of the whole sort of debate and public discourse, the inflamed public discourse about the decline of the French language within the province of Quebec. And this has made it such that uh, the CAQ, which has had no shame whatsoever in indulging on the ethnocultural issues and trying to bring those up in order to get popularity for itself. This created an opportunity for that. So you had Frankie Legs, Premier Frankie Legs, turning around, going, "Oh my God, this is like an outrageous statement. This is an embarrassment to all Quebecers. I can't believe he said that." There's nothing controversial about the statement saying that you're tired of the polarized discourse on issues related to the decline of the French language. And Mark Miller casually pointed out that when he was Minister of Immigration, that he had doubled the amount of immigration from Francophones coming to Canada, and said that his actions speak louder than words. Uh, there's no reason to doubt my commitment to preservation of the French language and fighting the decline of the French language. I doubled Francophone immigration to Canada when I was Minister of Immigration. I'm tired of the unnecessarily polarized debate on the matter. And then Francois Legault turned around and then polarized the debate, trying to claim that Mark Miller said something totally outrageous and impossible and shameful, and that he ought to be ashamed for himself, and that he brought shame about Quebecers. And it's like, there's no such thing. Saying that you're tired of a polarized debate it doesn't say that you do not take the issue seriously. Um, to that effect, a fellow Quebec Liberal MPs, Joel Lightbound, who is now the Quebec Lieutenant, and Stephen Guilbeault, who recently stepped aside from cabinet and was the Quebec Lieutenant, both came to the defense of Mark Miller and his comments. That Guilbeault specifically came out and gave a full-throated defense of Mark Miller will definitely go a long way as well to quell talk out there that Guilbeault has an animus and relationship of animosity with his party, really, that he's um, you know, now a member of caucus who might be a loose wheel, or someone that might be a danger to the party, or maybe can't be counted on to be a full team player. Oh, there came an opportunity very quickly after he stepped aside from cabinet to show that he was a full team player, and Guilbeault definitely took advantage of it to show that he is. So that will definitely quell some of the chatter and the wagging tongues. But yes, um, indeed, you can see Francois Legault pretty much desperate for anything that he can claim, or that he can to and raise and elevate himself and elevate his party. And definitely he has a predilection for any issue having to do with ethnoculture here. So that's what's going on in La Belle Province de Québec when we are talking about turmoil and tumult and pratfalls. Now, kids and cubs, let's take a swing out west to the province of Alberta, beautiful wild rose country, where Danielle Smith apparently has her hands full. She has tons of scandals uh, under her. There's the whole age scandal that's working its way through. She lost a couple of MLAs, I think Scott Sinclair and Peter Guthrie, who are trying to take over the Alberta Party and rebrand it as the Progressive Conservative Party to give Albertans an actual progressive conservative, non separatist conservative option to vote for in the next election. There's also rumors that Danielle Smith might be looking to call an early election in order to get ahead of all of this, because if she runs her full term and some of this blows up more during it, there's no way that she has a chance again to be elected. um, so you have all of this going on, and then of course you had the whole Forever Canadian petition in Alberta that worked very well. Thomas Lukasik, former deputy leader of the province of Alberta, showed everybody in Alberta that such a citizens' initiative not only uh, could succeed. Uh, that yeah, basically, not only could succeed, but succeed rather well indeed. Uh, According to David Clyman-Haga, who we've once had as a, he says here, thanks to the success of former Progressive Conservative Deputy Premier Thomas Lukasik's Forever Canadian petition campaign, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith now finds herself on the proverbial horns of a very real dilemma. Alberta Chief Electoral Officer Gordon McClure announced yesterday that sufficient signatures have been verified for the requirement of the Citizen Initiative Act to be met and Mr. Lukasik's Forever Canadian petition to be declared successful. Elections Alberta said the total number of verified signatures after random statistical sampling with a 95% confidence level was 404,293, and that 438,568 valid signatures were counted. That was well above the petition's required 293,976 valid signatures, or 10% of the voters in the 2023 provincial general election. In the event, an estimated 13.6% of all the electors in the province signed the petition, an outpouring of support for Canada that was a remarkable accomplishment by any measure. Under the Act, the Premier's United Conservative Party government can either take the petition's question, do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada, to the legislature for a vote that would probably end the separation debate, or it can allow it to proceed to a province-wide referendum. Now, it seems in interviews that I've seen with Mr. Lukasik that this is an option. That the option is to either bring the question to the legislature or bring it to a full vote, and that Mr. Lukasik had opted originally to bring it to the legislature first. Um, and there's a reason for that. And here we have it, according to David Clyman-Haga. The first course, which is bringing it to the legislature for a vote, the first course would likely smoke out how many of the UCP's MLAs and cabinet members are hardcore committed separatists. That would be bad for Ms. Smith and the party. The second course would create uncertainty, possibly drive away investment, and nevertheless result in a decisive loss for the separatists. That would also be bad for the premier and her party. So if you let it go to a referendum, you might get the similar situation that happened in Quebec when there was a referendum and a whole bunch of businesses just pulled up and left. So the first course would likely smoke out how many of the UCP MLAs and cabinet members are hardcore separatists, and the second course would create uncertainty and possibly drive away investment, and nevertheless result in a decisive loss for the separatists. That would also be bad for the premier and her party. It might drive the UCP separatists to set up their own MAGA-influenced far-right party. Without the government bending the rules or retroactively amending the province's direct democracy laws, a yay vote in the legislature would also block the wishes of the UCP's large and influential separatist faction from having a secession referendum on their terms, at least for 5 years, but practically speaking, quite possibly forever. So, thanks to the remarkable success of the Forever Canadian campaign's volunteers in every part of Alberta, Miss Smith would appear to have found herself between a rock and a hard place. According to Mr. Lukasik, who I talked to last night, quote, seldom are premiers faced with such really binary problems where the right and wrong are so clear. Do what's right for the province, don't divide Albertans any further, don't cause us economic harm, and just deal with this in the legislature, or do what a small group of angry UCP party members demand of her and what's expedient for her politically. I chose the pathway that's legislative, that gives her the opportunity to not call a referendum, he said. Separatists chose the pathway that forces her to have a referendum. I'm giving her an opportunity to do the right thing. I certainly hope there's no referendum, he added. There doesn't need to be one. Nearly 500,000 Albertans spoke loud and clear. But if there is one, I'm ready for it. I'm pivoting my campaign from petition signature gathering campaign to a referendum campaign, and we'll be prepared for it, just in case. The campaign bus is in the shop right now getting a new transmission, he noted. Mr. Lukasik thinks a significant number of Ralph Klein's, quote, severely normal Albertans remain in the UCP camp. If Miss Smith proceeds to a province-wide referendum, he argues, quote, they will walk away from her because they know the damage that this is going to cause. Chambers of commerce across Alberta will now be coming out asking her not to have a referendum, he predicted. She's having positive talks with Prime Minister Carney. All that goodwill will be shredded immediately when she decides to go into a referendum. Yeah, indeed. If she decides to go into a referendum, the opportunity of her finding a proponent plummets. I appreciate the dilemma of her position, Mr. Lukasik concluded, but let's be frank, it was Jason Kenney and her who put themselves into this position in the first place. First, they curated this sentiment of criticism within their own party. Then they created legislation for these referenda, and then they even made it easier for separatists to have these referenda. So they have no one else to blame but themselves. Regardless of what the UCP supporters are saying on social media, it's hard to believe this is the high point for Miss Smith it was supposed to be before she was publicly embarrassed by prominent members of the UCP separatist faction who booed her and attacked her pipeline deal with Mark Carney at the party's annual general meeting last weekend. Still don't count Miss Smith out. She has a solid record of getting away with more than most politicians ever could. She will be looking for a way to dramatically change the channel. An early election on the pipeline deal might do the trick. Mm, mm, And so yeah, this is happening. Uh, Now, kids and cubs, with regard, so how would I put it? So we've had this taking place. Um, like I said, it met with success, and that uh, has inspired other Albertans. Other Albertans were very, very upset with the Premier, Danielle Smith, um, having invoked the notwithstanding clause to end the teachers' strike. And that created something within the province of Alberta called Operation Total Recall. And there actually is a website, operationtotalrecall.ca. I will clip it here and put it in the chat for you, kids and cubs, if you wish to go there. Operation Total Recall is using the recall legislation that the Alberta UCP passed, and the public has decided to use it against the party who brought in the legislation, which is something the UCP, I guess, never counted on happening because their intention was to use it to get rid of NDP MLAs. It had the NDP won a second term, and given that the NDP didn't have a second term, they then changed the provisions within it to make it easier to recall so that they could use it against municipal politicians like the mayor of Calgary, Jyoti Gondek. Well, it seems that people got inspired from the Forever Canadian campaign and saw that was possible. And so they decided to file recall petitions on UCP MLAs. Over 250,000 people have visited the Operation Total Recall page in the last 30 days. And as we had mentioned, kits and cubs, there had been 14 different recall petitions that had been started and have been accepted by Elections Alberta. And all of those are currently gathering signatures. So the Honorable Rajan Sani, the Honorable Muhammad Yassin, the Honorable Demetrius Nicolaitis, Minister of Education, the Honorable Nathan Newdorf, Honorable Dale Naley, Miles McDougall, Rick McIver, Jason Stephan, Seal Thurton, Angela D. Pitt, Nolan B. Dick, Jacqueline Lovely, R.J. Sigurdsson, and Glenn Van Dyken. All 14 of those have petitions that are currently out there and gathering signatures. But since then, there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is that 8? Yes, 8 more UCP MLAs for whom initial paperwork has been submitted and approved. So welcome to the club, Peter Singh, Nate Glubish, Tanya Furr, Rebecca Schultz, the Minister of Environment, Adriana Lagrange, Minister of Health, Premier Danielle Smith herself in Brooks Medicine Hat, Mickey Amory, the Minister of Justice, and Jackie Armstrong Homeniuk. There's a lot of people in the upper inner circle in this latest round. There is no reason to suspect that, as is the case for the 14 previous, that initial paperwork will not be deemed to be sufficient, and that this will get to the gathering signatures phase itself. And then there's one more MLA, Brandon Lunty, who initial paperwork hasn't been submitted, but it is listed here on their site as targeted. So I guess he's the one that they're going to be working on next. And it seems that Operation Total Recall, his objective is to have recall petitions against all 44 UCP MNAs. Also wondering when the UCP and its membership are going to start getting on trying to do the same thing in seats that are currently being held by NDP MLAs, because you certainly know or expect that a tit for tat is going to start here with regard to this. But 22 now that have initial paperwork submitted, 14 of them approved and at the gathering signatures petition, and 8 waiting for the approval. So that's not going well for Danielle Smith in any way, shape, or form. Wanted to show you a little bit of an image of her, some video of her being booed. One of the things that I keep on bringing to your attention when it comes to Danielle Smith is to be her hands when she is particularly off-put or upset or angry. Her hands, even though she tries to keep them clasped together, do a lot of work. And I want you to see her being booed here. And she's holding a pen in her hand. I want you to see what happens to the pen. Okay, kids and cubs? Pay very close attention to what happens to the pen.
Now that Danielle Smith has sold Ottawa on Alberta's energy goals, she has to sell her base on working with Ottawa, which might prove difficult.
I support a strong and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. I know we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on that, but I hope people today feel a lot more confident that Canada works than they did a couple of days ago.
The memorandum.
Okay. Also, I'm not sure what Danielle Smith found so humorous about that she would be chuckling. Anyway.
Of understanding Smith and Mark Carney signed Thursday spells out Ottawa's support for new bitumen pipeline if Alberta commits to a higher industrial carbon price, lower methane emissions, and there's investment in carbon capture and storage. Smith is calling it a new chapter for Alberta-Ottawa relations, but not everyone at her party's annual general meeting is as optimistic.
The last 10 years, it's been clear that Alberta is never going to be valued by the rest of by the major decision makers within the Ottawa power structure.
Mark Carney's just stringing us along. He's not a fan of Alberta.
And then there's the separatists. Polling shows most Albertans want to stay in Canada, but some want to avoid working with Ottawa altogether, instead forming their own country and getting pipelines built through the U.S.
It's just a complete sellout of the province of Alberta, and anybody who thinks this is a good deal for anybody is a complete idiot.
Well, the Premier thinks it's a good deal.
Well, I stand by what I said.
Some do say Smith made the right call to get Alberta back on track.
We fought and we won. That doesn't mean that we're done fights on maybe equalization or other things. Like, we are in an ongoing battle to be treated with respect, to be, at the table as a partner, as one of the biggest economic drivers.
We may get another sense of support for this Alberta-Ottawa deal on Saturday when the UCP votes on its resolutions, signaling what's important to this group, one of which explicitly supports new oil and natural gas pipelines. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Edmonton.
All right, kids and cubs. So yeah, you saw that pen got quite a bit of a workout there from Danielle Smith. She was scrunching it, and I think she was trying to click it, but the pen had no click. Yeah, things are not going very well for her. As well, because the UCP recently had its convention here. A little bit of news from that. There were elections for the UCP board. And it seems that Rob Smith has been elected as president, Stacey Vander Veen elected as secretary, Samantha Stenke as the VP of Communications, Helen Holder as the VP of Fundraising, Vicky Kosmak LaFrenz as the representative for the North, Abby Johnson for the representative for Edmonton, Al Beal as a representative for Alberta Central, Irma Roberts, the representative for Calgary, and Ed Vandenberg, the representative for the South. So those were the positions, and I'm going to go to the Western Standard, not because I support it, but because when it comes to articles about what's going on within the internal part of the UCP, you sometimes get some interesting information here. So Jeremy Borg of the Western Standard. The United Conservative Party elected its new provincial board Saturday afternoon at the party's annual general meeting, where a competitive series of internal races drew high member participation and visible ideological divides. The returning officer took the stage to deliver the results, noting one remaining unresolved race due to an exceptionally close count. Quote, "We are recounting the race for vice president of fundraising. He told attendees it was very close, so we want to ensure the result is fully accurate. He confirmed that the remaining 8 positions had been finalized and were ready to announce." So I announced, I mentioned who got the positions. And here's where things get interesting, because there was a sovereignty-aligned slate for some seats on the UCP board. Candidates viewed as friendly to the Western independence movement, including Daryl Comic, Irma Roberts, Scott Payne, Vicky Kosmak-LaFrance, Samantha Stenke, Al Beal, Helen Holder, and Richard Mallett, saw mixed outcomes. Several secured regional positions, but the slate failed to win key executive roles, including the presidency. Comic, endorsed heavily by pro-independence activists, was unsuccessful in his attempt to unseat incumbent Rob Smith. The result reduces the likelihood of the parties pursuing an internal vote on Alberta independence in the near future, despite months of pressure from sovereignty-focused members. If I'm looking at his, there's based on what I saw here, Irma Roberts made it. Who else? Did Scott Payne make it? No. Vicky Kosmak did, I believe so. Yes, Vicky Kosmak-LaFrance did. Samantha Stenke did. Yes, so that's 3. Al Beal did. That's 4. Helen Holder did. 5, because she was confirmed as the VP for fundraising. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positions on the board, and 5 were won by pro-separatist candidates. Now, the president of the board is not a pro-separatist candidate, but the majority of the members of the 9 members are. But that's going to cause some problems from Danielle Smith, if she is indeed someone that believes in a sovereign Alberta within a united Canada, whatever that word salad means. But if she doesn't believe in separation, she now has a board that majority believes in it, with a president that doesn't. Oh, the fun they will have Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of people. Earlier in November, reporting revealed that the UCP board voted to prevent a dedicated session on independence from appearing on the AGM agenda. I'm sure that made them very happy. Alberta nationalist lawyer Jeff Rath told the Western Standard the vote had been tied until Smith, now re-elected, cast the deciding ballot. Rath accused Premier Daniel Smith of pressuring the board to shut down the discussion, claiming she would not tolerate a formal independence debate at this year's meeting. Oh, so it seems that the separatists within the party found out at the UCP convention what it was like for non-UCP supporters to participate in the Alberta Next panel. Daniel Smith just kind of organized and rejigged things so that the issue just wasn't on the agenda, so that there would be no opportunity for them to speak about it. My, how convenient. And what a way to foster pleasant and cordial relationships with that sector of your base, that section of your base or segment. Wow. Rath accused Premier Daniel Smith of pressuring the board to shut down the discussion, claiming she would not tolerate a formal independence debate at this year's meeting. Party leadership defended the decision, arguing that a partisan venue was not the correct setting for a topic they described as larger than the party itself. Quote, "There are independent supporters within the party," Smith said at the time, "but if a political party becomes the face of the movement, it stops being grassroots." Members retained the option of raising the topic during open microphone portions of the event, although many sovereignty organizers had hoped a favorable election result would open the door to a formal debate next year. With most executive positions now held by candidates seen as cautious on sovereignty policy, insiders say a formal party referendum or structured independence vote is unlikely during the upcoming term. However, with several sovereignty-supporting candidates winning regional seats and thousands of members expressing support for the movement, many delegates believe the issue is far from settled. Oh, you have no idea. Again, these are people who do not want to just be heard. They want to be obeyed, as the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau mentioned. And this is no different, whether it is at a global national event or within even the confines of the party. So here, now I'm reading this and I'm seeing that 5 of the 9 positions were taken over, but here, according to Post Media News' Jamie Sarkanak, it seems that the separatists have failed to take the UCP board. Okay, so this is a different take on it, that they do not have control of the board, but that they have gotten a taste of blood. Alberta independence means becoming the Mongolia of North America, sandwiched between 2 greater powers and cut off from the global market. A conservative party that aims for that goal is likely to experience breakup and election loss. This is why it's such a relief that the United Conservative Party membership didn't win a vote to load their board with separatists this weekend. Aside from party leader, I'm going to guess that this was AI generated in some way, because there are some articles missing in the text. Aside from the party leader, there are 17 voting positions on the UCP board, 9 of which were up for election at this year's annual general meeting in Edmonton. That's my error. So there were 9 that were up for election. Of those 9, 5, a majority, did go to pro-separatist candidate, but there are 11 on the board, and I guess with those that are remaining, they have not been able to take over the board. Now that makes sense. So aside from the party leader, there are 17 voting positions on the UCP board, 9 of which were up for election at this year's annual general meeting in Edmonton. Candidates supported by the separatist Alberta Prosperity Project won 5 of those positions, while candidates named in a list circulated to remain in Canada Conservatives won 4, including the presidency. So by Calgary Herald columnist Don Braid's count, Smith loyalists now have 11 of the 17 board seats. So, crisis averted. The fear was that a majority separatist board would bar non-separatists from running and perhaps even oust Remain in Canada MLAs from the fold, and maybe even those who are independence-friendly but not independence-enthusiastic. That fear wasn't misplaced, given that separatist movement leader Jeffrey Rath was openly talking about it. Prior to the release of the results on Saturday, he told Juno News that, quote, "Moving forward, we're going to be the ones selecting MLAs. We're going to be the ones moving the party forward in the next election." This is not the dominant faction of the UCP, but it's a rising one that is clearly. Whoops, I had pop up here. I had a pop up. Eh. uh, um, this is not the dominant faction of the UCP, but it's a rising one that is clearly working on the offensive. Rath drew a large applause on Friday when he rallied the AGM crowd into a standing ovation over independence, and when Premier Danielle Smith responded to his outburst with the talk of a united Canada, she was booed. So that was the second time she was booed. He humiliated her, and having tasted blood once, he's not about to stop. That moment wasn't representative of the entire AGM. Smith was also received warmly at other times, but got a standing ovation herself. But it was the most memorable moment, and it's likely to live on as ammunition for the NDP next election and as fuel for the separatist fire. Party members who don't want a secessionist takeover are going to walk away from the weekend on the defensive, mindful that they will likely have to face the wrath of Wrath. The wrath of Wrath. I see what you did there. Next year. Openly opposing the separatist movement will embolden it. Striking at Wrath will result in cries of, "How dare you disrespect the grassroots?" There seems to be little interest in ridiculing the Alberta Prosperity Project either, even though its plan involves spending $1 to $2 billion to start up a military and giving crown and land away to sovereign Indigenous people. There will be some who think that more flirtation with the separatists is the way out of this, that fanning their delusions, invoking the pointless Alberta Sovereignty Act, and blaming Ottawa are all key. Danielle Smith is already on that, by the way, with regard to the gun BIPOC program, talking about using the Alberta Sovereignty Act to make it such that the province doesn't have to comply. But that's getting old, and the separatists are already starting to catch on. If enough supporters are rallied to the next AGM, the strategy is going to backfire, just like the UCP's recall legislation is backfiring right now. What the UCP should actually do going forward is aggressively pursue matters within its control and do it with haste. That's something that hasn't yet been tried. The UCP spent a large amount of political energy on passing the unnecessary Alberta Sovereignty Act in 2022 to give the appearance of federal resistance. A better use of the government's time would involve sending reference questions up to the courts, appointing more on-site lawyers to those courts, and sharpening the government's litigation department. And while the UCP has brought on a number of welcome initiatives in the area of justice, protecting kids from protecting kids from being secretly transitioned in school. That's not happening. It's never happened. It's not a thing. Cleaning up homeless encampments and proposing free speech protections for professionals among them, the government isn't going as hard or as fast as it could. The legislating protecting kids from being transitioned by their teachers, again, not happening. I do not know why he's even legally allowed to write this. And responsibly putting age restrictions on cosmetic cross-sex medical procedures. They already existed. They don't need her to do it. As well as protecting female sports from male competitors was all very welcome. I'm going to guess welcome at the convention, not welcome in general. But the summer of trans absurdities was back in 2022. The Alberta framework was announced in January 2024, and it took until October for bills to be tabled. And despite all that, it remains legal for intact males to use female washrooms, change rooms, and women's shelters, even though Alberta has had bad experiences with these. Alberta's worst homeless camps have been cleaned up, but violent homeless people somehow remain a fixture of Edmonton's downtown, and violent crime in the center of Calgary is at a 6-year high. It's unclear how much a 2023 UCP initiative to dedicate prosecutors to violent downtown crime has helped. It very well might have, but there haven't been any progress reports. Meanwhile, Alberta Crown prosecutors have refused to appeal clearly flawed cases that allow obvious criminals to walk free, and dangerous offender status and bail appeals remain underutilized tools in keeping horrible criminals in jail. We need more police, more prosecutors, and a no BS attitude that fights every judge who dares put the public at the mercy of drug dealers, foreign gropers, and stabby meth-fueled vagrants. Oh my God, could this article be any more loaded in terms of language? As for regulated professions, the free speech legislation that was announced earlier this month is welcome, but it was announced a year ago. It takes time to draft a bill, but it shouldn't take that long. In 2024, the UCP passed the Provincial Priorities Act, which requires the province to sign off on federal grants for provincial entities. With that came the hope or fear among progressives that the province would put an end to the federal Liberals forcing DEI into provincial universities. But no such change appears to have come about. Alberta universities remain an extension of Liberal cultural policy. That, again, is a bullshit statement. Finally, on immigration, the UCP can find all sorts of creative ways to prevent the ills of population overload from harming Albertans. Crack down on illegal international student rooming houses, prevent professionals trained into countries with untrustworthy education credentials from practicing in Alberta, limit government hiring to citizens only, very publicly shut down restaurants and trucking companies that run immigration scams, stop funding public school tuition for the children of work permit holders, take non-English speaking students out of regular classes, do it in the next 6 months, not a year from now when the moment has passed. The great frustration of Albertans is that they don't feel in control and that too many of their problems are forced upon them by the feds. In a lot of ways, they're not wrong. The fight to get Alberta energy to market with a Liberal government in Ottawa and a Supreme Court that puts Indigenous interests above all will remain a challenge. But we don't have to be helpless victims of Ottawa on every file. Crime, immigration, and cultural degradation can all be attacked with full force from provincial jurisdiction. If the UCP can show that Alberta doesn't need to separate to deal with these problems, that will go a long way for the party's health and for the province at large. And this was National Post, Jamie Sarkonik. A lot of statements in this editorial to take with not only a grain of salt, but an entire salt lick. But everything about the internal workings and machinations of the UCP in here is indeed accurate. So yeah, that's what's happening in Alberta. And Danielle Smith appears to have her hands rather full. In another twist, kits and cubs, something that may have people may not have seen coming. Now, as I mentioned, right, there's the whole gun buyback thing that she is doing, right? Things didn't go well. How would I put it? She knows that things are not going well for her, so invoking the notwithstanding clause on the trans issues was red meat that she threw to the base. She signed this MOU, clearly not entirely popular with everyone in the base. So, she comes back with the gun buyback thing. Oh, we have to fight Ottawa again. We have to fight Ottawa on this. I'm going to invoke that Alberta sovereignty legislation. So again, this is merely red meat that she's throwing to the base. Not sure how this helps her in any real shape or form, but it's sort of like just hey, I'm not fully in love with Mark Carney. We still need to fight Ottawa. Ottawa's still terrible. I mean, look what they're doing with the guns. Again, not sure how that is working for her. With regard to the MOU, here, there's some interesting things going on, which also have some impact on Danielle Smith and her leadership. Number one is that a lot of people are calling, well, not a lot of people, let's put it this way, but a lot of people are pointing this out. But Scott Reid, specifically, former, not the CPC MP in the House, but the former Liberal strategist, called the budget almost ostentatiously apolitical. And the same thing with this MOU. If you're thinking politically, right, there's no reason for Mark Carney to sign this MOU. He's risking 20 seats in British Columbia, which is the highest amount the Liberals have ever gotten in BC. He's risking 40-something seats in the province of Quebec. The Trudeau experience, having built Alberta Pipeline, we just saw some comments from Albertans there saying, Ottawa will never be with us. It's like, we just spent $38 billion on you. Right? It's like, no, they don't believe in oil. They never have our backs. They'll never support us. And even no matter how much we try to prove that we do have their backs, they're never going to believe it. So it's not like there's any seats to be gained there. He's had a cabinet minister leave cabinet, but they'll remain in caucus. It's a move that risks adding more support to the NDP, which is currently on life support and is permitted him to have the government that he has now. All of the potential consequences of this decision, politically speaking, are not good for the Liberals. All of it drives away potential pools of voters. and yet he's doing it anyway. So it seems that Mark Carney is really leaning into the I'm not a politician. Same thing with the budget. Affordability is a big issue. There was no additional tax cut. There was no additional bauble or trinket or whatnot, or put money, direct more money to the people sort of a trinket in there that would have been politically very, 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 very popular. Right? There's even $1 to $2 billion in cuts overall to the Indigenous envelope. Again, not good in terms of various specific constituencies, and yet he's doing it anyway. Um, so that the I'm not a politician, and there will be no games thing that he keeps putting out, he seems to still be feeding on that. And there's a lot of people, for example, that are saying to him, you just signed this MOU, but you're not out there spiking the ball and saying, yeah, we got this MOU. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this pipeline happen, blah, blah, blah. This, and, you're not seeking to get the political gain out of it. I personally believe that it's a good idea that he's not trying to spike the ball right away, because all we have right now is an MOU. We don't actually have a pipeline. We don't have a project. We don't have a proponent, right? No consultation, no proponent, no First Nations approval, no route, and nobody having made from the oil sector having made commitments to fill that pipeline with anything, if it actually was built, right? There's none of that in existence at the moment. So why would you spike the ball now on saying the pipeline? Right? There's plenty of time. If there actually comes to the point that there is a project and the project does get approved and goes ahead, then there's time to spike the football. And then you can point back. See, all those years ago when you were saying that there was no way that a liberal would do it and no liberal wasn't serious, I was serious the whole damn time. Here's the pipeline project. It's going ahead. It's being approved. There will be shovels on the ground by such and such a date. So there's no need for him to not play it cool right now on his personal support for pipeline. That's another thing that people are criticizing, that Mark Carney keeps on saying, but we've created necessary but not sufficient conditions. This is big. This is a big day, but there's no statement of Mark Carney specifically saying, I personally approve and support this pipeline, and I personally will make this happen. Right? I'm putting my political capital specifically on this. There's plenty. I think it's a little premature at the moment for people to be saying that Mark Carney is letting an opportunity go by not spiking the ball right away. It's better to play it cool at this moment. There is some change in the way that people are talking. For example, the BC government, Beaver Premier Eby, resigned to the fact that he does not have a veto because they've already tried this in court, and the Supreme Court ruled that there isn't. Seems to be laying the groundwork to steer the conversation towards a port shipping route that would be away from the legislative tanker moratorium era. It seems that David Eby would be very pleased if this is going to be happening anyway and crossing our territory anyway, if we don't want it to have a tripling of Trans Mountain. So to expand Trans Mountain as it is now, so that it can have increased capacity and maybe triple it along the current route that it is, so that it can go out through the port of Vancouver instead. And that would solve a lot of issues. It would solve the Alberta issue. It would give another oil pipeline in a manner that is much less expensive, because getting to Vancouver is much easier than crossing the Rockies at the higher points in the north to get to either Kitimat or Prince Rupert. There already is infrastructure. There already is openness to wanting to dredge in the area of Port of Vancouver, so that bigger ships can pass through there. So it seems that there is agreement for that, and it seems that David Eby really is focusing on not wanting to violate the tanker ban area, as opposed to opposing the pipeline itself and trying to steer the route of the pipeline another way. And that's probably his best option here. there is when we're asking about why another oil and bitumen pipeline rather than just having gas pipelines. Um, we talked about how that there are so many gas projects slated for British Columbia is a boon to David Eby because it could bring in about $300 billion of investment in order to get us to the levels of production that Mark Carney would like. Um, and that could be a tool that the federal government is using to secure his buy-in to an oil pipeline, which probably only has a 50 or $60 billion investment price tag for it. Uh, the economic benefit. So right now it looks like, for example, it would be a bigger economic benefit for British Columbia, clearly, to not have an oil pipeline and just have the gas pipelines and get that $300 billion of economic investment as a result of it. The problem comes for the price at which what comes out of those pipelines sells. So while LNG would bring in more investment dollars for BC than the pipeline with regard to the construction in terms of revenue from sales, because gas sells for way less than does bitumen. For example, for the week ending November 28th, Canadian natural gas prices were approximately $2.85 Canadian per gigajoule, whereas the price of Western Canadian Select crude oil was around $55.90 US per barrel. The Western Canadian Select price reflects a discount to the U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate, which sells at higher. But if you do the calculations and bring that to gigajoules per barrel, um, basically you're getting $2.85 Canadian per gigajoule barrel per gigajoule for gas. But with oil, you're getting basically $6.20 US for gigajoule barrel. So if you can convert $6.20 US into Canadian, it's a little more. So it's at least 3 times more the value of what's coming out of the pipeline, and that's why the oil pipeline is so attractive in terms of what it is that it can bring back in terms of revenue. Now, of course, there are other considerations to take into account, like, for example, when demand for peak oil is going to reach. There are various assessments. Some say it'll be around 2030 to 2035, and there are other estimates that say that that's the case up until 2050. If we take the most conservative estimate, or actually in terms for the economics, so if we assume the worst case scenario that we each reach peak oil, now I say worst case scenario, not for people who have environmental concerns, because the faster we reach peak oil, the better in terms of that. But in terms of economics and just business for the oil industry specifically, if we reach peak oil in about 2030, and we're already 2025, and let's say there's a 2 year, let's say they get their proponent and everything for July 1st as they're needed, and then the project takes 2 years to approve. We're now in July 2028. Let's say that happens. There's no legal proceedings that push things back or whatnot. And then you need to get the thing built. Well, it took us about 6 or 7 years to get the twinning built. That brings us to 2035. If we've already hit peak oil in 2030, and the pipeline that we're spending all this money, oil pipeline, to build and put up, can't be operational before 2035, and demand for oil has already started declining 5 years ago and is in decline, in permanent decline. Do we end up with a white elephant? That's a question. And number two, does a current government actually care whether or not the project will end up being a white elephant, so long as there is a construction project right away, right now, that attracts foreign investment dollars and creates jobs, given the current situation? One has to ask. There's also two little other things that have happened well, two other things that happen internationally that are causing people to be concerned. One, what Trump is doing with Venezuela. There's been other talk lately that seems to indicate that there are certain operations he would like to conduct that could only happen if you had, if you were going to either drone strike or strike from air or have people on the ground doing that type of stuff. So a lot of people are thinking or wondering out loud, is Trump looking over to take over Venezuela and take over all of its oil fields and therefore use that as a way to cut out Canada completely in one fell swoop, which could devastate us. The other thing that Trump has been musing about aloud, a little too loud for the liking of some people, is that he has started to mention perhaps letting Kuzma lap. Now, which again would devastate us. So, for example, that would be a hell of a 1-2 punch that he invades Venezuela and says, "I'm taking over your oil fields. There we go, Canada. I don't need your oil anymore. Go get bent. And by the way, we're pulling the rug out of you, out from under you with Kuzma." That would not be good at all. Now, a little one thing or two here to note that if the president wanted to do this, remember that what's coming up right now is not a full renegotiation of CUSMA. It's just a review of the changes that we made a few years ago. Donald Trump will definitely want to expand it to make it more than that, but that's what is planned. And this review was supposed to happen. And if it was indeed passed, these would be the terms of CUSMA for the next 16 years. So even if Donald Trump says at the moment that he would like to kill CUSMA legally, because CUSMA is still in effect until about 2036. So we have some time to make the transition. Of course, we're talking with Donald Trump, a man that respects nothing and no one and respects no rules and whatsoever. So even though we do have that legal protection, nothing says that this man is going to respect that. But at least for now, we can have at least legally, we know that he's not allowed to do that. Whether he will do it anyway and say "fuck the law," which is a Trump thing, is up to him to do. Whether or not, so we have to be mindful of that. Trump, of course, on his end, has to be mindful of the fact that he might not be able to do that without encountering rather vociferous and somewhat violent. I'm not saying physically violent, but very strenuous, let's say, opposition within the United States. Brad Wood, who's the senior director of the National Foreign Trade Council, was on Power and Politics yesterday, making the case that this is probably not something that would go over very well in the United States at all. Here, have a little clip of his intervention here for you, just to give you a little taste of some of the feelings south of the from members of the business community who enjoy the fact that we are rather integrated.
It is Senior Director of the National Foreign Trade Council, which says its members employ 6 million American workers. Hi, Brad. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, JP. It's great to be with you.
So just last hour, as you heard there, Trump said he'll either let CUSMA expire or will maybe work out another deal with Mexico and Canada. What's your reaction to those comments from the president?
Katie really hit the nail on the head. In terms of the agreement, there is 10 years of successive reviews before it will expire. Ultimately, we've seen this play out in terms of threats to pull out of the agreement when we renegotiated NAFTA. And so as we approach the review here, you call it a review, you call it a renegotiation. It's critical for American businesses, for my members, that we see this renewed. And so ultimately, we will be working in the review, in the process that'll kick off in January, in my testimony tomorrow, to make the case for the agreement to be extended. That doesn't mean it won't have any changes. It doesn't mean that there can't be upgrades, but ultimately the agreement is too important for the integrity of the North American relationships.
Yeah, when he says CUSMA expires in a year, that's not exactly right? Because as I understand it, it actually doesn't expire until 2036. If they can't agree on this review process, then it essentially just rolls over year after year after year. There's not actually a formal mechanism to tear up the agreement next year, right? Like this would stay in place even if they can't come to some sort of agreement on the review.
Well, I do not like to interpret what the president said beyond his remarks. He used the term expire, and you are absolutely right that that leads to annual successive reviews.
Okay, so tell me.
There is a clause whereby the president could pull out of the agreement with a 6-month notice. That is not what he said. And so I think we should separate the issues. And he ultimately pointed to the fact that if we do not see a renegotiation or an updated agreement, he'll let it expire, which requires successive reviews. And so those are two very distinct outcomes.
So as you said, you will be before this panel tomorrow. You'll be making the case for CUSMA. Tell me what you're going to be telling these folks as they consider the review process. Why do you think we should keep CUSMA?
So NFTC, the National Foreign Trade Council, we represent every segment of U.S. manufacturing, in particular multinationals. Yes, they have a significant presence in the U.S., but they have a presence in Canada, in Mexico. They have supply chains that are integrated throughout, and they have customers around the world. We need this integrated framework to be able to compete and do the manufacturing that the president is trying to achieve here in the United States, and also export and compete with the world. And so for that to take place, we need this duty-free access. We need to get back to respecting USMCA, to respecting CUSMA, and get even beyond not only renewing the agreement, but also removing the 232 and IEEPA tariffs that are currently in place. And so that is really the case that we will be making, that the agreement continues to be fit for purpose, that it is working, and that, yes, there are areas that you could upgrade or refinements that you can make, but you can do that within the authorities of the agreement without opening it up and going back. But again, call it a renegotiation, call it a review. The agreement needs to be moved forward in earnest and hopefully re-upped for 16 more years by next summer.
So Trump said again today in the Oval Office there that Mexico and Canada have taken advantage of the United States. He's made that claim many, many times before. I know you know that. But does that concern you that he is using that sort of rhetoric? I mean, does that not spell trouble potentially for this review process if he is continuously repeating that we are ripping off the United States?
The president is a negotiator. We have seen this. We saw it play out in the NAFTA review. Ultimately, he is going to be looking for concessions. You highlighted dairy. We know some of the areas that are priorities. What Canada needs to focus on, what Mexico needs to focus on, is making this a win for the president. So looking at areas of cooperation, whether that's critical minerals, whether that's energy cooperation, and hopefully coming out the other side, we can reduce and remove the tariffs that are in place and restore, the predictability that the business community needs and renew this agreement.
We were hearing from Republican Congressman Chris Smith earlier today. He was supposed to appear before this committee to make his remarks about CUSMA, but he couldn't appear. He sent us some of his remarks, and he says he's sure Trump will achieve concessions to ensure that Canada no longer takes advantage of the United States. Where do you see Canada having to make concessions to potentially get to a deal with Trump?
Well, I mean, we highlighted the dairy market access that we've heard the president repeatedly speak to. I don't have members in that sector, and ultimately that is a sensitive and priority area for Canada. I recognize I was a Canadian diplomat at the Canadian Embassy here in Washington, and so I've represented us on agriculture issues. My constituency is not there. Where I am focused is on the broader competitiveness aspects. There are elements in supply chain cooperation, but none of that requires opening the agreement. For us, there are some targeted areas that we are looking to make progress on. That is some of the digital barriers that we've seen in Canada. Ultimately, Canada removed its digital services tax. We continue to see challenges with some of the online streaming provisions that CRTC is advancing. And so we will be looking for progress in some of those aspects. But ultimately, our overarching objective is to see the agreement renewed. in whole with the removal of tariffs.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Brad Wood, Senior Director of the National Foreign Trade Council. Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, JP.
So there you have it, kits and cubs. A little bit of nuance that goes into the latest amount of fear that the United States is throwing our way. But these are considerations to keep in mind as we're taking on these large infrastructure projects. Could there be something that comes out of left field to sort of upend all of that work and all of that investment? And is the United States, under current leadership, the kind of country that would pull that on us? And I think we all know that the answer to that is yes. They would pull it. Now, whether or not it actually happens, it's one thing. But we definitely cannot put it past current leadership of the United States to not do that. Right? So we have to keep that in mind. Finally, for Danielle Smith and also for Pierre Poilievre on this one, another bit of news that is not going to, this probably caught Danielle Smith by surprise and doesn't help Pierre Poilievre whatsoever, because Pierre Poilievre has come out against the MOU that Danielle Smith is so gleefully pointing to and saying, hey, we got the deal. So there's a division within the conservative ranks. Now, you would expect in Alberta, the leader of the NDP, the provincial NDP, Naheed Nenshi, to be all out against this MOU, right? Because, well, extra G is G's and it's the, NDP. But where everybody expected him to zig, he zagged. This is November 17th, according to the Alberta NDP caucus. Quote, "This MOU is good for Alberta. We need more pipeline capacity, energy exports, and the oil and gas jobs that come with it. I am happy to see that this MOU comes with investment commitments for Pathways, the world's largest capture, utilization, and storage project. I'm also happy to see it includes a more stringent industrial carbon pricing agreement, as well as emissions reduction measures that reaffirm net zero 2050, and that it highlights the essential role of partnership on this project. We have a huge opportunity to unleash new energy investment in this province, and pipelines are a very important component of that. This will take a lot of hard work, and in the end, success for our province will be measured on a pipeline getting built. Alberta needs an all-of-the-above strategy. Yes to more production and export capacity for oil and gas, and also to expanding electricity interties with BC and other jurisdictions, developing a critical mineral supply chain, expanding advanced manufacturing, and reversing regressive laws on renewable energy. Alberta's New Democrats have had success building pipelines with TMX. We know what it takes. It's time for everyone to roll up their sleeves and do the hard work to get it done." The Alberta NDP goes practical and pragmatic and supports the MOU, does not stand in opposition with it. So yes, kits and cubs, the Alberta NDP with Naheed Nenshi is more pro-pipeline, at least this pipeline, than is Pierre Poilievre at the moment. I'll give you a moment to sit down and gather yourself. Yeah, how's that for a plot twist that we did not see coming? So Danielle Smith is championing the pipeline and being booed by her supporters. Nenshi is championing the pipeline as well. Not sure if he will be booed by some of his supporters as a result of it. But in terms of political positioning, not doing the knee jerk, where the NDP were against pipelines, terrible, bad, and turning around and saying, yeah, no, this is good. Basically, the NDP here is planning to compete with the UCP, telling Albertans, look how they've managed healthcare. Look how they've managed education. Look how they managed their own caucus and their own board. This party is a mess. It's like they did the work of getting the MOU of a pipeline. Thank you for that. But do you really trust this party to implement it and bring it to term? This is the party that had its own leader booted by its own caucus prior to Danielle Smith being there. Do you really think that this party, this vehicle, the UCP, is the vehicle that's going to get you the pipeline? when they're at war with everyone and they can't play nice with anyone whatsoever, and they're always trying to upend things and creating new drama and can't run any component of the federal government. Health and education are the two basic things the province does, and they're not doing either of them well, and they're always fighting amongst each other anyway. If you actually want a pipeline built, and you're serious about it, you might want a serious party to do that. That would be us. It's a very interesting strategic positioning on the part of Naheed Nenshi. And it is a positioning that, considering the turmoil in the UCP, could actually work. Could actually work, especially if Danielle Smith and Pierre Poilievre are going to be at odds with each other. Hee hee. Hoo hoo. Ha ha. Finally, Kits and Cubs, because this is a sampling of provincial disasters in provincial politics. We move to British Columbia, where the leader of the British Columbia Conservative Party may or may no longer be the leader of the party, depending on who you ask. Yes, indeed. Very confusing. But it would appear that yesterday, at least according to the caucus of the BC Conservative Party, they have booted John Rustad as its leader. According to other members of the caucus, the vote was out of order, and John Rustad says he's not leaving. So I'm sure that is going to be a real orderly mess where everybody is going to be charming and polite and considerate with each other as they're trying to resolve that. Now, of course, we've reported on this being a little bit of a mess as well. But here we go. The latest here, according to the party's board, is that John Rustad has been removed as leader of the BC Conservatives. Rustad told reporters, quote, "Nothing has changed. He remains as leader." He added on social media, "I'm not going anywhere." BC Conservative House Leader Aliwa Warbus said members would have clarity on who is the party's leader by the end of the day. However, no official announcement came on Wednesday evening. The board's decision comes after months of turmoil in the party that have seen legislature members resigning from or being kicked out of caucus. A letter released today, signed by 20 of the party's MLAs, said they had lost confidence in Rustad's leadership. Trevor Halford, MLA for Surrey Right Walk, said he has been selected as interim leader of the party, but it's unclear who will be the leader of the official opposition in the BC legislature. Oh my God. What a mess. Oh my God. So let's see if we can see that letter written by the 20 BC Conservative MLAs. Really interesting here. So according to Wolfgang Deppner of the Canadian Press, an attempted coup against John Rustad's leadership of the Conservative Party of BC descended into chaos on Wednesday, with the party's legislators unable to agree who was in charge. The party announced just before 1 p.m. that Rustad had been removed as leader of the opposition, and a caucus vote had installed Trevor Halford as interim leader after 20 MLAs representing a caucus majority said they had lost confidence in Rustad and wanted him out. A news release on party letterhead said Rustad was removed because he was professionally incapacitated. But if Rustad's opponents thought that that was the end of the matter, they were mistaken, as his supporters roamed the legislature's corridor, insisting he remained opposition leader, and Rustad took his usual seat in the chamber. He was scathing on social media, saying he was not going anywhere. Quote, "A political party's board can throw around whatever creative terminology they like. Professional incapacitation. Give me a break," he said. Halford and Rustad separately visited the office of the Speaker, Raj Chauhan, amid expectations he would make an announcement to help clear up the confusion by end of the day. But late Wednesday, Chauhan said only that a written statement would be issued, quote, "in due course," while the Conservative caucus held discussions into the night. Just over a year ago, Rustad stood on the cusp of becoming premier, with the Conservatives eventually falling 3 seats short of a majority. Since then, a caucus rebellion has seen the departure of 5 MLAs, while the party's president and most of its board executives have called on him to go. Not only that, but there has been a split in terms of another Conservative party called the One BC Party having been formed, with two ejected MLAs, Tara Armstrong and Dallas Brody, and they are one hell of a shit show. It seems that the only thing they stand for is to claim that no land was stolen from Indigenous people, that Canada was built, it wasn't stolen, and that we haven't seen any bodies yet, and that the residential school claims are all a hoax and all that kind of stuff, and anti-trans stuff. That seems to be the only two things that the party stands for. It's a party that is seeking for a reason to exist and is contributing absolutely nothing beneficial to society. In fact, Tara Armstrong's, the latest thing from the 1BC party is that Tara Armstrong is trying to have a national day commemorating the convoy. That is the pressing political issue of the moment. She's writing bills. It passed first reading. She's celebrating that. But she's spending, if you're a British Columbian, she is spending your tax dollars on trying to have a day of commemoration or celebration or memorialization or whatever it is for the convoy. That's what the 1BC party is doing right now. I just don't understand it. But anyway, so yeah, just over a year ago, almost became premier. Now his party wants to boot him. For months, he has refused to quit. On Wednesday, Rustad cited the party's constitution, which says the only way to remove a leader are death, incapacitation, resignation, or a leadership review. So therefore, they came around and they said political incapacitation, which of course, being politically incapacitated is not what the rest of us understand when we say that somebody has been incapacitated. Usually it has something to do with their health or them being in a location somehow for some reason and they can't get out of it. Like, for example, had you been kidnapped, you would be rather incapacitated in terms of performing your duties. But politically incapacitated is not a thing. It's just two words that they put together to try to create some reason. Now, of course, this is conservatives. You can't be surprised because conservatives love to have fun with words, even though words have had definitions in the dictionary for hundreds of years. They like to come up and say, no, that's not what this word means. It really means this. So yes, apparently they are claiming political incapacitation, which is not a thing, which has led people to say that the vote was out of order. But the party's board of directors seemed to find a way around that, according to the news, according to the release announcing Rustad was out. It said the board had decided Rustad was, quote, professionally incapacitated and unable to continue as party leader. Quote, furthermore, the board passed a motion appointing Trevor Halford as interim leader. The Conservative Party of British Columbia respects the democratic will of the party of caucus, the news release said. It also said there had been a caucus vote to select Halford. Halford, the Conservative MLA for Surrey White Rock, said Wednesday afternoon that he had accepted the job as interim leader. At that time, he said he had not had a conversation with the Speaker or the Clerk of the House, so it was difficult to say who the leader of the official opposition actually was. Quote, we're in some pretty incredible, unprecedented times, and what I've been calling for is stability, and I think it's paramount that we get stability inside of our caucus. I think it's paramount that we get stability with our party. I think it's paramount that British Columbians get stability. Confusion reigned in the hallways of the legislature as some Conservative MLAs continued to call Rustad their leader despite the news release. Abbotsford West MLA Corky Neufeld turned the question of the leadership on reporters, asking them, what did you hear? We'll have to find out, he said, adding that he, quote, always stood with John from beginning to the end. And the party's leader? Quote, right now it's John Rustad, Neufeld said. Rianne Gasper of Abbotsford Mission said there had to, quote, be order in the process, and this is out of order. I'm disappointed in my colleagues. I am disappointed in the way that this has taken shape, she said. Gasper, too, insisted that Rustad remain the opposition leader, while the Conservatives' House leader, Alia Warba, said in another press release would clarify exactly who was leading the opposition. Chaos was triggered on Wednesday morning by a letter from lawyer Bruce Halsor to the party president Aisha Esti, saying he was in possession of statements from 20 MLAs calling for Rustad's removal. The letter said the statements were, quote, individually executed, which all advised that the member has lost confidence in the leadership of John Rustad. The letter was authenticated on Wednesday by Esti. Halsor, a King's Counsel and managing partner at Victoria law firm Crease Harman LLP, said in the letter that he has been asked for the moment to keep the identity of the 20 members confidential. But Rustad said the constitution of the party did not allow MLAs to vote him out, and no number of legislators could force him to quit. Quote, there's obviously some loud voices that have been part of that group that have been for some time, he said, adding that he was, quote, listening to their voices, but the party was going to focus on issues facing British Columbians. He said it was, quote, going to be their choice if the 20 MLAs choose to quit the party caucus. Since last year's election, the party's 44 seats have been whittled down to 39, with Dallas Brody and Tara Armstrong forming the 1BC party and 3 other exiting the caucus to sit as independents. When he was asked on Wednesday what he meant by saying he wouldn't step aside at this point, Rustad said, "I'm not going to live forever." Oh. Premier David Eby was asked about the Conservatives' leadership troubles during a news conference he held on the end of the fall legislative session on Wednesday. He said he wasn't surprised at the fracturing, giving some Conservatives members anti-vax conspiracy theories and their pro-Trump tweets. Quote, "They're fighting amongst themselves. I don't know how you could hold a group together with that kind of hodgepodge of craziness." So there you have that, kits and cubs. Lots of stuff going on. Here, this is so yesterday, the Conservative Party of British Columbia issued a release stating a majority of the Conservative caucus of British Columbia has informed the party's legal counsel that they no longer have confidence in the leader of official opposition, John Rustad. Of the leader of the official opposition, John Rustad. As such, he has been removed as leader of the official opposition. Per caucus vote, Trevor Halford was selected as interim leader. Having received this notice, the board of directors passed a motion certifying that Rustad is, per section 1102, professionally incapacitated and unable to continue as party leader of the Conservative Party of British Columbia. Furthermore, the board passed a motion appointing Trevor Halford as interim leader. The Conservative Party of British Columbia respects the democratic will of the majority of caucus. The Conservative Party of British Columbia would like to extend its deepest gratitude to John Rustad, who led our party into its ascendance and made history. We wish him and his family all the best in their next chapter. Per the Constitution of the Conservative Party of BC, the Board of Directors will now begin the process of a leadership race. The party will provide further updates to this process once it is fully developed. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, that is what's going on over there. Do we have a leader? Do we not have a leader? Is he gone? Is he not gone? We don't know how it stands. From what I tell, this probably is indeed out of order, because I don't see how professional incapacitation is a thing. In that letter that the 20 members wrote, they stated that the party's credibility had been undermined as a result of the turmoil under his leadership. And this is a quote from the letter here. As evidenced by sagging poll numbers, memberships, fundraising, shrinking caucus, and staff, let's try that again. As evidenced by sagging poll numbers, memberships, fundraising, shrinking caucus and staff, philosophically inconsistent policy, low morale, and perhaps more importantly, a lack of enthusiasm and tepid endorsement from our membership, your leadership has ceased to serve that purpose, the letter said. Ouch. Rustad has repeatedly said he won't quit, citing the results of a leadership review in September where he earned 70.6% support among members who voted. That's not particularly high, by the way, but it seemed that it was determined enough for him to be able to stay at the moment. So yeah, that's what we are seeing here, kits and cubs, in British Columbia. Definitely lots of turmoil within the party here with regard to John Rustad. Again, I have a feeling that Rustad will indeed have a point here and will be able to remain as leader for now. But I think his days are indeed numbered. MLA Brennan Day had a statement to mention on the non-confidence vote. After months of instability within the party, it has become increasingly clear that the BC Conservatives need new leadership to chart a steady and united path forward. That is why today I voted to formally express my non-confidence in John Rustad's leadership. I remain grateful for John's work in growing the party and bringing us to where we are today, but we now need a leader who can steady the ship in these turbulent times. We are facing an NDP government that is failing British Columbians, and we cannot afford another day of further distraction. A majority of caucus has voted to restore stability by selecting Trevor Halford as interim leader, and I fully support this decision. It's time to refocus on what truly matters, delivering a strong, united Conservative alternative for this province. I remain fully committed to the Conservative Party of British Columbia, and I will continue to work and fight every day for the people of Courtenay-Comox. British Columbians deserve stability, honesty, and a government that puts them first, and we are ready to deliver exactly that. It would seem as well that there is some talk about the manner in which that vote took place, and that there are certain people that maybe did not have a chance to cast their vote. Other members, such as Claire Rattay, have also issued statements with regard to how much confidence or the confidence vote itself. So there you have it, kids and cubs. A lot going on in British Columbia as well. I'm just going to take a little bit of my notes to see if there's anything else here that I have in the notes with regard to this. Nope, that's all that I have. So as you see, kids and cubs, turmoil in the province of Quebec, turmoil in the province of Alberta, and turmoil in the province of British Columbia. What we can say, politics makes for strange bedfellows and very strange circumstances. But all of this creating situations in which, and this is what's really interesting here, is that if you are looking at polling here, I'm going to go to 338 Canada again and look at numbers for British Columbia. The most updated number is October 21st, so I'm sure that things might have changed since then. Yes. Here, if we were looking at polling results, 330 Canada was showing the NDP at 45 and the Conservatives at 42 on October 21st. So the parties were very close to each other. We're very, very, very close to each other. Despite the fact that there's been all this turmoil, I'm wondering if there would be a drop in those numbers since then. So very much looking forward to more provincial polling from British Columbia. But we're talking, again, John, a party that came in a person that became within a hair of becoming the leader of British Columbia. Federally, when we're looking at all the turmoil in the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre came within a hair of becoming the leader of the country. We dodged a few bullets. Clearly, because these are parties that claimed to the population that they were governments in waiting, and with all this going on within their caucuses internally, clearly that was not the case. It would have been very, very messy and distracted leadership. So the residents of BC and the residents of Canada as a whole in their provincial and the federal election made a very wise choice to avoid taking a bullet. And hopefully this will be these parties, for the federal Conservatives and the BC Conservatives, will somewhat implode under the wake of their own dislike for each other. That won't make me sad at all. All right, kids and cubs, I believe that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. Hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We really appreciate it when you do, especially when you include a little bit of news of your own, stating, for example, why it is that our content has resonated with you. Very, very important. I had so much more for you today, kids and cubs, but the provincial issue was so big. A couple of things I want to mention before we go, just very quickly. There is some data on the U.S. economy that you might want to know. Just gives you an idea how things are going down there and how our weighted out strategy might actually be one that is smart. According to data, some prime auto loan delinquency rates in the United States, that's loans that are more than 60 days past due, are at heights that I've not seen in more than 30 years. U.S. credit card delinquencies of more than 90 days are greater than 12% in the third quarter of 2025, which is the highest number since the Great Recession of 2008. Office commercial mortgage-backed securities delinquencies rate is high. The mortgage delinquency rate has not yet hit, but it is starting to look shaky. Consumer confidence is on par with the pandemic, and the expectations index is lower than during the pandemic, both indicating that the economy is stressed. And then there's also something called the Buffett indicator. Of course, when we're talking about the Buffett indicator, we're talking about investor Warren Buffett in the United States. And the Buffett indicator is also known as the stock market capitalization to GDP ratio, which is a valuation tool to determine if the overall stock market is overvalued or undervalued. It would seem here that historically, interpretation for the US market involves ranges suggest an undervaluation, 70 to 80%, normal valuation around 100, and significant overvaluation approaching or exceeding 200%. Well, according to statistics and data, the Buffett indicator is currently at 224.1%. So that is significantly over 200. That it has exceeded 220 is leading to discussions about potential market overvaluation, partly attributed to optimism in areas like artificial intelligence, so whether or not that AI bubble is going to burst. However, the indicator does have limitations, including the impact of globalization on U.S. company revenue, interest rate effects, and the fact that it's not a precise marketing timing tool. It also generally is not suitable for comparing different countries. But still, 224% on the Buffett indicator would seem to signal extreme overvaluation. So that is some stuff to watch for in the United States specifically. And then there was one more little bit of news here that I had for you, and it was with regards to our coverage yesterday on the Indigenous file and the Indigenous reaction to the MOU when the Prime Minister was speaking to the special meeting of the Assembly of First Nations. I had forgotten to mention the most important part in all of that. I buried the lead completely, and it was that the chiefs had, before the Prime Minister had come to speak to them, had voted on the MOU, and the vote resulted in a unanimous request for the government to actually rescind it. So I'm sorry that I forgot to mention that yesterday. That was a very important part of it. It would seem as well that there was word on the tweet that Tim Hodgson, who we had talked about before, the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, who was the person that the Prime Minister personally tapped on the shoulder as being his guy, was worked with the Prime Minister when he was at Goldman Sachs and worked with him again when he was at the Bank of Canada. So he places a lot of trust on him. But Tim Hodgson has had a couple of tongue slips since becoming minister. The most recent one, him claiming on Power and Politics that he could deal with coastal First Nations on negotiations and free, prior, and informed consent via Zoom, which was considered very flippant and dismissive and insulting. Apparently, this is not his first. Well, it's not his first blip like that, but it's not even his first one in that week, because apparently, word on the tweet is that Hodgson had a meeting with the BC caucus of the Liberal Party, were not necessarily most overjoyed with the MOU, and basically chastised them for being, quote, Boy Scouts on climate, according to Tonda McCharles, and basically letting them know that they are lucky that Mark Carney is their prime minister, because maybe they would all have jobs as a result of that. Tonda McCharles determined to put a term on these as flashes of arrogance that the Liberals might need to keep in check, and Mr. Hodgson in particular here. Hearing these types of stories makes me wonder about, again, when Elizabeth May asks about the value of Prime Minister Mark Carney's word to himself. Um, it doesn't help with that discourse to hear that the Prime Minister's number one guy, the guy that he handpicked and tapped on the shoulder, is going around and chastising the BC caucus for being Boy Scouts on climate and dismissing First Nations, saying we can talk by Zoom. I have no, again, this guy apparently has this impressive track record, but I'm not impressed. The political sphere is not the boardroom. There are lots of boardroom skills that will help, but it's not the boardroom. Politics is about people and relationships with people. And, if you're going to be raking people over the coals and dismissing them and flippantly referring to their needs, you might be in the wrong profession. So far, not at all impressed with Tim Hodgson at all. And when we're looking at partnerships, Wab Kinew, Premier of Manitoba, is showing us how it should be done. Partnership before the project. Work on the partnership before the project. And this is the complete opposite that the Prime Minister has been doing with the Build Canada Act. And with this, he has been working on the elements of the project and then seeking the partnership afterwards. And he should probably reverse that because there's a difference between early engagement and consultation. Right? The Prime Minister made a point of saying at the assembly, at the special assembly with the special meeting for the Assembly of First Nations, that early engagement did not count as consultation. The consultation part is going to come after. Yes, early engagement may not be consultation or formal consultation, but there's a whole school of people that believe that early engagement is the most important part of consultation. And the federal government doesn't seem to be picking up on this when it comes to the Indigenous community in particular. And comments by Minister Hodgson seem to indicate that the current leadership of the party is somewhat indifferent to this reality. And it may be something that they need to take into account a little more if they plan to make the progress that they want to make at the speed at which they want to make it. And I want to point out that I'm not, because I saw some comments about this in the chat, not piling on Mark Carney. But this is, like I said, we're giving commentary and analysis. And yes, we do lean progressive or centrist, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a fan show, right? We often say on the show that it is more important for people that are on a certain side of the political spectrum to offer reasoned and respectful and logical critique, not criticism, but critique of their own side before they start pointing fingers at other parties and other entities. And that's what we're doing here. We are signaling or bringing attention to the fact that there might be a blind spot or there might be a better way of going about this type of engagement than is currently being used, because what is being done is speedy and it is efficient in that sense, but it is leaving behind some bruised egos, some hurt feelings, and that eventually can come back to bite you. So there's a certain lack of delicatesse that's going on with the manner that the current party with its leadership is engaging in talks with stakeholders and even other parties. If we saw on the budget, the party seemed to not care much about whether or not it had the support because he knew they knew that all the other parties were in a bind. But as the Bloc Québécois leader, François Blanchet, said that can come back and bite you on the ass. And Elizabeth May currently wondering a lot here, given that commitments were made to her specifically that there wouldn't be a certain type of tax credit for oil companies, and it wasn't in the budget. But a couple of weeks later, that type of tax credit did find its way into the MOU with Danielle Smith, and Elizabeth May is having a hard time believing that Mark Carney did not know at the time that he promised her that the 2030 commitments would be met, that there would be a real push to try to achieve them. She's finding it hard to believe that he didn't know that those tax credits were in the MOU at the time that he had promised Elizabeth May that he would indeed still adhere to the 2030 commitments. So, again, you can't be that flippant with your word. You can't be in politics and not have people who were burned by it remember it when you need them later on. So there might be a couple of things. Again, this might work very well in the boardroom, but it doesn't work as well in politics. People have hurt feelings and very long memories in politics, and eventually the chickens come home to roost. All right, kits and cubs, as I mentioned, this is the end of the episode. Share our content. Let's see. I don't remember what comes next in my sign off. I drew a complete blank, kits and cubs. So yes, share our content if you would like us. There we go. I just caught back on to support you because sometimes you are busy and on the go and would like to follow our content, but are not able to live with the Damn Fam or at your own convenience. So you might need us in another format. Well, thanks to the Ray Girl, Kits and Cubs, who sponsors our pod page, we can do that for you. Podpage.com/TheTrueNorthEagerBeaver. And if you go there, Kits and Cubs, and click on subscribe or scan that QR code that just appeared, when we have something fresh off the podcast bandwidth, it comes directly to you. You can pop us in your ears, take on the day, and remain informed all at the same time. Multitasking. It's a wonderful thing, and we like to help. Kits and Cubs, if you would like to help us, you can do so by traveling on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. And if you're watching live, remember, if you smash with our buttons now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. But please go there and smash away. Get freaky. Let your freak flag fly. We don't judge. In fact, we encourage you. Like, share, and subscribe, waiting for your clicks. It helps us with the algorithm, and Kits, Elaine, and Cassie would very much approve. So thank you very much. Kits and Cubs, if you would like to help us in other ways, because we do incur some financial costs to bring the show to you, and we would be very, very grateful for your help with that. If you would like to help, you can do so through an enthusiastic expression of encouragement via our coffee page, where you will find the Eager Beaver Lodge's Emergency Hydration Fund. Because a moist beaver is a very happy beaver. So if you can, go to ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word. Or you can scan this QR code that has just appeared in the corner, and that will bring you to our coffee page. And if you leave us a couple of toonies and loonies there, not only will it make us very, very happy, but it will go a long way to help us bring more content to you. And Kits and Cubs, if you're doing the Buy Canadian thing because you want to avoid the US tech pros, we can help you there too. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you would send a direct bank transfer if you wish to support us. And that way, the Broligarchy gets none of your money. In fact, it comes to us. We get 100% of your donation, which means your donation goes further and we could produce more of this content for you for the same donation. So please, if you can direct your support to us that way, that would be most appreciated. But anyway, you direct support to us, we appreciate. If you're watching on YouTube, we have super chat and memberships. Thank you to all of you who support us that way as well. It does mean the world to us, and we are very, very grateful. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Remember, we have once again petition for you, petition 6821, House of Commons petition to encourage the House to table some legislation that would make it such that Canadian media would be owned by Canadians and operated by Canadians for the benefit of Canadians. And here I will put this link in the chat for you. So for you to find the prescription, find the petition, and you can sign it. Not a lot of growth since yesterday, unfortunately, but we're at 7,172 signatures. Let's see if we can boost that as we keep on going. And of course, if you live on Prince Edward Island, we have a provincial by-election coming up in 4 days, Kits and Cubs, for District 2, Georgetown Ponal, where the leader of the Liberal Party of pre-EI, Robert Mitchell, is running to try to get a seat in the legislature. There is one more day of advanced polling that will take place tomorrow, December 5th, from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., with, again, voting day being on December 8th. Do not let your friends do democracy alone. Do make your plan to vote if you haven't voted already. Bring friends with you, and hey, make an activity of it as well. Go out for dinner as well, or after, or ice cream, or check out a movie, or just grab a coffee together and hang out and catch up. Make it a fun event. Doing democracy is fun, so get involved. Okay, there you go. Okay, Kits and Cubs, that's all I got for you. So it's time that we get to the audience participation part of our show, where I will ask you, Kits and Cubs, if you would, to say, Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock on 1, 2, and 3. Oh, how melodious, how harmonic. I can't say no to you, Kits and Cubs, especially when you ask so artistically. Here you go. Here's some cock for you. No, I shouldn't let that sit. I shouldn't let that one sit. That one's a little too dirty, even for me. Here's some cock-a-doodle-doo for you. There you go. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music. All right, Kits and Cubs. Little bit of news here about Canadians who make us proud. For our Paralympians, there are Winter Games berths on the line at the season opening in Paranordic World Cups in Canmore. So lots of competition there. If you're out in the area, please go go out there and support our athletes. The FIS Para Cross Country World Cup runs from December 3rd to the 7th, so it started, while the IBU Para Biathlon World Cup follows in the Alberta resort town from December 11th to 14th. The athletes say the rare home opener offers a meaningful advantage ranging from early season jet lag to racing on familiar trails. It's definitely an advantage, said Canadian star Natalie Wilkie of Salmon Arm, BC, a 7-time Paralympic medalist in the women's standing category over the last 2 games. Not having to travel anywhere is something I'm really looking forward to. Canada's head coach Brian McKeever said hosting the first event allows Canada to evaluate its full roster on equal footing. A World Cup at home means we get to ski on snow courses we know, said McKeever, Canada's most successful Winter Paralympian of all time with 20 medals, including 16 gold. The rest of the world is on jet lag, so the tables are turned. It also gives us a real opportunity to select our Paralympic team at a high-level event where everyone we've identified can join these races and be ranked. Emma Archibald is a rising star in the team and is vying for our first Paralympic Winter Games team berth. Quote, looking back at my training, this year has given me a sense of calmness, said the 22-year-old University of Ottawa nursing student who calls Fall River, Nova Scotia home. It's exciting to go into these races and see where I am as of right now. It's a chance to put everything I've learned to work. We have Canadian competitors here. Mark Arenz, Colin Cameron, Brittany Hudak, Natalie Wilkie, Derek Zaplotinsky, Emma Archibald, Christina Picton, Lynn-Marie Bilodeau, Logan Larivière, Yves Bourque, Jesse Baczynski, Charles Lecourt, Madison Mullen, Leo Samarelli, Ethan Hess, Angela Oakley, Cara Duville, we mentioned Mark Arenz already. Yes. And that's all the names. So they will be competing in cross country and biathlon. And we send them all our cheer and encouragement in order to be able to come up with fantastic results for us. Also, Kits and Cubs celebrating some Canadians here. We also have very good results from our speed skaters. Again, they had a shortened season this year, pre-Olympic. So for the short track skaters, the 2025 ISU Short Track World Tour has already ended, with Canada taking the 2025 Crystal Globe titles at the final stop. William Danjinu secured his second consecutive overall crown on Saturday with a 1,500-meter gold and 500-meter silver. Courtney Sereau captured her first overall title on Sunday, highlighting a remarkable comeback season. And Canada also earned the team crown, repeating as champions for the second consecutive season. So gold Crystal Globe for team, for male individual skater, and female individual skater. Over the weekend, Canada's short track team claimed a total of 7 medals, 3 gold, 3 silver, and 1 bronze. It was a great final event for the Canadians there. And collecting some Crystal Globes along the way is a very, very, very big deal. So again, good stuff. And finally, from the Canadian curling trials, congratulations to Team Homan and Team Jacobs, both of them returning, at least Homan and Jacobs as skips, returning to the Olympics in the teams disciplines to represent Canada in Cortina. So hopefully, Cortina Milano. So hopefully they will have great success at the Olympic tournament. And big congratulations to Brent Gallant, who will be the first Canadian and maybe even the first competitor overall, but who knows, competing in both team and doubles at the same time. This is the first year that the Olympics is allowing athletes to compete in both disciplines in the same Olympic calendar year. And Peterman will be competing in mixed doubles. Brent Gallant, will be competing in mixed doubles with his wife Jocelyn Peterman, and he will be as part of Team Jacobs in the 4-member team there. So a great achievement for him, and he has very good chances of coming out from the Olympics as a double medalist in curling. So in the similar Olympics. So keep your eye out on him. Lots of great Canadian talent to cheer for with the Olympics coming up. All right, Kits and Cubs, that's all I have for you. Amour et bisous. And we will see you tomorrow. And with that, I am gone.